Thank you so much for taking the time to take a quick look at the training videos that we have here. I wanted to introduce myself and give you a little bit of a high-level summary on my background as well as the background on the short-term rental model, just as an overview. You may already be familiar with a lot of this, but I always like to kind of give a brief introduction, and so you can see strategically, what our main focuses are. And so Rich Monroe here with Diamond Edge Properties. I've been a real estate investor for a little over 20 years now. And we started out with tax lien investing. And so, I bought a lot of properties through tax lien auctions in Georgia and Maryland. And we picked up a lot of properties that were in really bad shape, vacant for long periods of time, needing major rehabs. And so we worked with a lot of investors and kind of sold those out. Through that process, we did keep some of those properties and did rehabs and kept them as long-term rentals. And then we also started a fix and flip business and basically did about 7 or 8 fix or flips a year. Honestly, really got burnt out a little bit from that. It's managing the contractors, the financial stress of not having the properties get done on time or get sold on time. And so I just kind of got burnt out from that grind. And, that's really when I found the short-term rental model. And it was like a light bulb moment for me. Compared to long-term rentals, the properties stay in much better shape. You're not chasing people down for money or trying to evict them when they don't pay. And, we basically have built a scalable model. And so we started out and, with the rental arbitrage model and properties that we had acquired and converted off of our long-term rental portfolio and kind of built a sustainable model from there. And so I'll kind of walk you through a little bit of the background and history on how we got there. I'm also an Airbnb ambassador and community leader with Airbnb. And I'm also a president of Atlanta Metro Short-Term Rental Alliance, which is a nonprofit where we are basically fighting for advocacy rights to have fair and reasonable ordinances for short-term rentals in the Atlanta metro area. And so, make no mistake about it, a big part of the success here with real estate investors and the ability to use short-term rentals as another exit strategy and as another option to generate revenue is because of the Airbnb platform. It's been around for about 10 years, but it's really allowed for the ability to be successful with no matter where your property is. And so you can be in the suburbs, you can be in the city, and of course you can be in the mountains, lake, and beach areas as well. So it really doesn't matter where the property is. And so the ability for individual hosts and owners to place their properties on the Airbnb platform and generate revenue is really a big part of why this is a successful model. And so they've kind of looked at this industry, and it's forecasted to grow up to $335 billion by 2025. And the demand is continuing to grow. The supply is continuing to grow as well. And so this is really kind of the starting point of this opportunity. Likewise, we also have a lot of institutional players that have come into the space, and not much unlike the long-term rental space with build to rent. We have a similar thing going on with short-term rentals and Airbnbs. Definitely, a lot of institutional investors coming in and special purposing properties specifically for the Airbnb rental model. And so it's not only investors like us that are kind of looking at this, it's also the institutional buyers. And so, with Diamond Edge Properties, as we shifted into the short-term rental space, we definitely kind of built this with the intent of ultimately being passive at the end of the day. There is definitely heavy lifting in the beginning to get the properties set up, but the whole objective here is to have systems and automations in place that allow you to essentially do this from anywhere in the world remotely, and also be able to kind of have that consistent monthly cash flow so that you're not dependent upon the fix and flip model or other models that you have to constantly feed the pipeline. And so that's kind of what we like about this business as well. The Airbnb platform is something that we kind of do a deep dive on and show folks how to operate it, and with the intent of maximizing your revenue. Instead of long-term rentals, the short-term rental model is looking at the average nightly rate. And so this is an example of the Atlanta marketplace. We've got about 7,600 listings that are all short-term rentals throughout Atlanta. And the average nightly rate is 144 at a 55% occupancy rate, or revenue at 1,700. And so essentially that's kind of a combination of all properties, whether they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bedroom homes, and that's kind of the general average of the market. Tampa, Florida, we're also in the Tampa, Florida market. We have been there a few years now, and we have a lot of 3 and 4 and 5 bedroom homes there. Same thing there. There's about 2,500 active rentals, and average nightly rates 124, 67% occupancy. And as you can see by the map, you don't necessarily have to be along the waterways. You can be anywhere in the suburbs, 20, 30, 40 minutes from the beach or from some of the events and activities, and still do quite well. Just another example, St. Petersburg, obviously a lot of activity along the peninsula there, but same thing, like I mentioned, you can be all the way in the suburbs and in the inner city parts and do well at this as well. So we started with this particular building in Midtown Atlanta. Even though we had a lot of long-term rentals, we did convert some of those over to short-term, but a really quick way to scale the business is with what's called the rental arbitrage or the master lease model. And so that is a model that a strategy that we teach our clients on how to do and kind of show the ins and outs of it, and provide you with all the information that you need to get it done. And so this was the first one that we started with. Over the period of about 6 to 8 months, we added additional units. This is also in the same area. It's a quadplex. And so we started with one bedroom unit and ultimately ended up with a total of 3 in this quadplex. And same thing with this one. We started with 1 and then we ended up with 3 total. What typically tends to happen is once you form your relationship with that landlord owner, they see the benefit of doing the master lease strategy with you over the long-term tenants. The properties stay in much better shape. You're basically inspecting and cleaning in between each guest stay. And so you're also taking off some of the heavy lifting. Anytime the toilet clogs or something goes wrong with the property, you're going to have your team actually go out there and check on that. So you're not relying on the landlord. And so they like that approach. And so what happens is after the first few months, they typically will come to you like they've done here on these few examples with us and say, well, we like what's going on. Do you have, would you like to add more units? And so we went from 1 or 2 units in the beginning to about 10 units very quickly, just from that alone. In this example, the owner of this building also owns this building a few blocks away. Same dynamic. There was 1 unit that came available, and we picked up an additional 3 units as well on top of that. And so we also gravitated to another building in the same area in Midtown. And these are all 1 bedroom units, 1 bedroom, 1 baths, and nice rooftop, with a view of the Atlanta skyline. And so you can kind of seek out these types of properties that are well suited, that fit well. This is one of the listings here. And so just to kind of give you a sense, the average nightly rate on this was about $125 a night. And so it's around $3,300 in gross rental revenue. You're not going to get 100% occupancy all the time, but it does happen. And so there's probably 4 or 5 different guests that are checking in and out. If you see the little lines on the calendar there, that represent that total. And so this is an example of another month. So, even though the nightly rate's a little bit higher, the occupancy's a little bit lower, you're still around $3,800 a month in gross rental revenue. And so in this example, those 1 bedroom apartments cost about $1,400 a month to rent them on a long-term lease. And so with your monthly expenses of rent and utilities, you're coming out at around $1,800 a month in expenses. And so you're going to clear in this example around $2,000 as a net revenue number. And so in order to consistently grow quickly and add more units, you're basically capturing that net cash flow on a monthly basis. And you may not own the property, but you're basically taking control of the property and creating that net cash flow. And that's kind of what's attractive here with this model. Gives you that flexibility. There's also the ability and the option here to manage properties for other investors. And so this is a property actually out in Lawrenceville, Georgia, out in the suburbs, probably about 45 minutes away from the city of Atlanta, and not in any special location, not walkable to anything. However, we were able to get this property's nightly rate up pretty quickly, up to about $1,100 a night. It's a very nice property, and it has more of kind of a resort feel. And so what strategically we typically will do is we will consistently get 5-star reviews. And so, the first 24 reviews that we got were all 5-star reviews. And what that allows you to do strategically is increase the rent over a premium, the nightly rate, over what the market is doing. And so the market was doing around $350 a night on average. And so when we started, and so as we started getting those reviews, we kept increasing the price until ultimately we got up to around $1,100 a night as an average nightly rate. And so you don't have to have a whole lot of occupancy to generate a lot of revenue. So we had, in this month we had, 3 different guests that stayed basically at an average of around $1,100 a night as a nightly rate. And so for the month we did around $14,000. And so that was a slow month. We usually did about $15,000 to $16,000 on an average for that property. And so it's just to give you a sense, there are other properties that are different property sizes. This is another property in Tampa, 3-bedroom, and the nightly rate's $212, 65% occupancy, so you're doing around $3,400 a month. And so whether you're managing or whether you're doing rental arbitrage or whether it's a property you've purchased and you've fixed it up and you set it up to do short-term rentals, you're going to be able to generate revenue to do this. And so this is a 5-bedroom home in Buford, Georgia, which is another suburb, out in the middle of nowhere special. And it's got, average nightly rate of $329, 71% occupancy, and a $5,700 short-term rental revenue. And so the long-term rent on this particular property might be around, $2,000 to $2,200. And again, you're basically generating the net difference as your net profit on a monthly basis. As a manager, if you were to manage this property, you can earn around 25% of that $5,700 on a monthly basis to manage the process. And so that's another thing that we teach as an option if that's something of interest. Here's another property, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and averaged around $3,900 a month in revenue, 71% occupancy. And another one, this is a kind of a horse farm ranch that we have in North Georgia, and average nightly rates around $480, 93% occupancy, $12,000 in gross rental income. So as you can see, it's definitely a lucrative model. And part of what we do strategically is when we go into a market, our objective after the first 2 or 3 months is to beat the market average rates. And so this is the comparison in 2021 of the red line is kind of the market and the blue line is Diamond Edge. And so we are consistently trying to outpace what the market is doing as their nightly rate. This is for 2022. And then we also do the same thing with occupancy. And so occupancy, because we're running this like a business, we're maximizing the revenue potential, we want to make sure that we are outpacing and beating what the market's doing. This is 2022, so same thing here. Blue line, we're actually outperforming the market by quite a bit. There has been a slowdown in occupancy over the last year since COVID, and part of that reason is because there's a little bit of a higher supply, and the supply is slightly outpacing demand. Now, the demand is still there because the month of June and July of 2023, we've actually had more listings than we've had ever globally for short-term rentals. And so the demand is continuing to grow, but a lot of the operators that aren't really kind of running at peak performance are noticing a dip in their occupancy, and that's why, because it has become more competitive. And if you don't have a lot of the strategies in place, like for example with the channel distribution, so we strategically put on other platforms besides Airbnb, obviously VRBO, HomeAway, Booking.com, Expedia. We're also a Marriott Homes and Villas approved vendor, so we show you how to do that. Basically the Marriott homes. Bonvoy members can use their points to book at your properties. And so it's all about maximizing your occupancy, getting as much coverage as possible. And no matter what you do, you're going to get most of your revenue from Airbnb. But again, we want to run this as smoothly as possible to generate and maximize revenue. That's kind of what we're all about. And so I appreciate you taking the time to take a quick look at this. Please also view some of the videos below. We have some of the folks that we have as clients that are talking about their experience with us. And then we've occasionally done some workshops, and there's some testimonials on some of our workshops below as well. So I look forward to chatting with you and kind of figuring out what your goals and objectives are, and seeing if there's a way for us to help you get there in the shared economy. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.